Did you know that one of the actors in The Exorcist actually went on to become a real-life killer? The actor is this man. His name is Paul. Paul is about 31 years old when all of this begins, living in New York City. In 1972, something major happens in his life. He's working at a hospital as a radiology technician when a filmmaker shows up, researching for a movie that will eventually be called The Exorcist. The filmmaker watches Paul and the medical team work, likes what he sees, and decides to cast them as extras. Paul and his team end up filming a scene, and Paul even makes it into the final cut, briefly, but he's there. In 1973, the movie releases. It becomes a massive hit, one of the most iconic horror films ever made. Paul's scene is even considered one of the most disturbing. On the surface, things seem fine. He had a steady job, he was part of a legendary film. But beneath it all, Paul is struggling. He's a gay man in the 1970s, and finding real connection hasn't been easy. He just got out of a 9-year relationship, and although he's dating, he feels deeply lonely. On top of that, he has a serious drinking problem, mostly vodka, sometimes more than a quart a day. Over time, his addiction gets worse. Some days he takes shots before even getting dressed. Eventually, it costs him his job at the hospital. Now unemployed, Paul starts taking odd jobs, cleaning apartments, installing light fixtures, even working as a cashier at an adult movie theater. But the loneliness doesn't go away. At night, he goes to clubs, mostly gay leather bars, meeting random men. It fills the time, but not the emptiness. What he really wants is a relationship. This cycle continues for years. Then, in 1977, one night at a leather bar, Paul meets a man named Addison. Addison is a journalist and film critic for Variety magazine. He's charming, and he finds Paul attractive. The feeling is mutual. They hit it off quickly, bonding over partying. They drink heavily, take drugs, and spend hours talking. By 3 a.m., they're still together, so they move to another club, a place called the Mine Shaft. There, the drinking and drugs continue. Around 5 a.m., Addison invites Paul back to his apartment. Paul agrees. At the apartment, they drink more, take more drugs, and hook up. Paul is having a great time. He likes Addison, maybe even sees a relationship potential. But then something shifts. Paul starts to feel like Addison isn't looking for anything serious, just a hookup, and that realization hits hard. Drunk, high, and overwhelmed, something inside Paul snaps. He walks into the kitchen, grabs a heavy frying pan, and strikes Addison, knocking him unconscious. Then he grabs a knife and stabs him, killing him. Afterward, he robs him, taking his credit card, cash, passport, and even clothes before leaving the apartment. Soon, Addison is reported missing. Police find his body, but they assume it was a robbery gone wrong. Paul isn't even a suspect. But then, a man named Arthur enters the story. Arthur is Addison's friend, a journalist, and he writes an article in the Village Voice titled, "There's Nothing Gay About Murder." In it, he criticizes the police for not taking the case seriously and argues it wasn't just a robbery. Paul reads the article, and something changes. Drunk, as usual, Paul tracks down Arthur's number and calls him. He says, "You were right." Then he confesses, admitting he killed Addison, describing the frying pan, the stabbing, and even details no one else knew, like stealing the credit card. Arthur knows it's real, but Paul never gives his name. Arthur reports everything to the police. They wait in his apartment, hoping Paul calls back, but instead another man calls. He says he knows the killer because Paul had drunkenly confessed to him earlier that same day. Police track Paul down and arrest him. Paul goes to trial, is found guilty, and sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. But while behind bars, he allegedly brags that Addison wasn't his only victim, that he had killed other gay men in New York, murders that were never traced back to him. Which means Paul may not have just been a killer, but a serial killer who was never fully caught.